Can you imagine of having to write, record, and perform every single instrument for your own album?
Yeah, that is something that very few of us can do. We dream of, many dream, very few have accomplished. So, since you and I have been doing this, we've touched on Phil Collins, who did an album that way.
Right?
And because we cover good music, we will inevitably end up talking about Dave Grohl, who did
Okay.
that with the first Foo Fighters album. And the artist that we're going to discuss today, he did that with an early album.
He's done that for a couple of albums.
Oh, yeah. And not just early albums, but even later on, well established in his career, just said, you know what? I think I got this.
And of course, the artist we're talking about is the legend Prince with his second album, the sophomore effort, Prince.
Yep. Self titled.
Have you ever seen the album cover for this?
Man, I remember seeing this one, let's see, about 84 at Flea Market. Yeah.
Man, he's got nice hair. I'm going to give him his props.
Yeah.
But then you flip the album back. And this dude
Yeah.
is riding a Pegasus, naked.
Yeah, naked. Yes.
He's like Lady Godiva on a
Yep.
horse.
Yep.
Okay. And I could not believe that somebody, whether it was Prince's decision or his, I guess they didn't have marketing teams
No.
back then.
And his 12-year-old mustache that he had going
God.
on. But hey, he was 12. And when I say 12, I mean anything under 30. And he was truly a kid at the time.
Right. And that makes it even more amazing because he's still in his late teens, maybe 20, right?
Yeah, maybe.
When he recorded this album. And this album was released in 1979.
And late teens, maybe 20, second album.
Second album.
Second album.
That's right. And the first album had some good to great songs, Soft and Wet, I'm Yours, a couple of other tracks, but no hits. This is his first album to have a hit.
Yeah. So much that he was on American Bandstand with this album.
Right, with Dick Clark.
Yep.
And Dick Clark said that when he interviewed Prince, it was by far the hardest interview he had ever conducted in like 40 years.
Yeah. And as we say, American Bandstand, those who aren't grown here in this going like, what are they talking about? No, if you were an artist and you had a hit single, it was not a hit single if you were not on American Bandstand Saturday morning.
And that was from like 1955 till like 1990.
91 or 90, yeah.
Right. And Dick Clark has now passed, but he was also most famous for the New Year's Eve celebration.
Yep, world's oldest teenager.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And when we talk about Prince, it's hard not to just have reverence for him because he's such a legend. Purple Rain, Kiss, Let's Go Crazy.
Oh, yeah. And
Like decades of hit after hit after hit.
And consider, okay, so we're talking about his second album.
Correct.
You just mentioned Purple Rain. So at Purple Rain, he was 23, 20, maybe 24. I was about to say between 23, 25.
Sure.
By time it was in the theater, okay, so he's 20 nothing years old, cleaned up, made stupid money, and said, you know what? Because during the album we're talking about, I've been sitting at a studio, and it actually involved tape and stuff, expenses at the time. You know what? I'm going to take all this money. I'm going to build my own studio. So then I don't have to try to get time at a studio to record my albums as he did with this one, having to do it all himself. He has the time. And it can make money because I will rent it out.
Right.
Genius.
Yeah. And
In a day and age when everyone's drinking, shooting, or smoking up whatever their money, he invested it in himself.
in his hometown.
Yeah, never left.
There was a sound in the 80s called the Minneapolis Sound.
Yep.
All thanks to Prince.
Yep.
Okay, he broke out Apollonia, Vanity, The Time,
Yep.
right? And I'm not saying that all of them had as huge of a success story as Prince. Obviously not, but just the fact that he can say, I am going to create a sound for this town. I am going to live in this town. I'm going to embrace this and create a musical scene where ultimately there really wasn't one that was national at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Because before him, yeah, you may have known who the replacements were if you listened to music left of the dial. So if you weren't listening to college stations, you didn't know where Minneapolis was.
Right.
It wasn't until he came along and it was mainstream where people said, oh, Minneapolis, Minnesota? Where's that? Oh, there it is, near Canada.
Now, for Prince, I discovered Prince like you did when we were kids, watching the Little Red Corvette video, 1999 video.
Oh, yeah.
All of them Purple Rain videos,
Yep.
the Purple Rain movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't even remember hearing songs from this album, except for the cover song that Shaka Khan did.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even remember hearing songs from this album until I picked up his greatest hits in like 1990, 91, 92, whenever that came.
Oh, yeah, I remember that
And then going back.
Yeah.
And then when, I'd say about 10 years before he died, I just said, I have to listen to all of this Prince music.
Whew.
Okay?
Yes.
And I didn't make it through everything until a couple of years ago after you did.
Yeah, because you're not gonna.
But I remember first hearing this album as an adult in my late 30s, early 40s. And it didn't blow me away at the time because even though I loved Prince's music, I was very selective. But the more I would listen to different eras of Prince, including his last 20 years of recorded music, I just kept discovering new things. Like, oh, I'm going to release an entire album of piano ballads. I'm going to release an entire hard rock album with always have a little bit of funk in it. I'm going to release a 3-disc selection of album cuts, or not album cuts, demos that I recorded in 1987 that never came out. It was supposed to be the Black Album. Oh, I'm going to release a dance record. You know, not that you couldn't dance to so many other Prince albums. I'm going to release a psychedelic pop record. He just kept doing whatever he wanted to do in whatever genre he wanted to do.
Yeah.
But he always sounded like Prince.
Yep.
And that's why I wanted to go back to this second album. Had to think about that for a second. I want to go back to this album. One, because it's a much better album than the first album. For You was the first album.
Yeah.
But also because we hear all of this stuff now that Prince is gone, rest in peace. We hear all of this stuff that made him great before he was quote unquote great.
Yes, and this is why I agreed as far as going back to the second album, because we have the luxury of hindsight, you know, and
Sure.
we've discussed this before, where we sat, because we've discussed this album for many weeks leading up to this.
Sure. And here's the reality, man. It could have been easy to do Purple Rain. We could have watched all the videos, commented on the videos,
Yeah.
the hits.
Yeah,
But I was like, no, let's go back a little bit further.
because come on, that's not us.
And as we go through this show, we're going to see a diversity in Prince's styles as he's trying to figure out who he wants to be.
Yeah, and that's what makes this interesting, because that's what it is. Now, granted, his head was definitely much more screwed on than the average 19-year-old, but he was still a 19-year-old. So
That's right.
he still was discovering and identifying himself. And I don't mean that in a mean or condescending way.
Sure. Now, let's just go through the songs
Yeah.
one by one and discover these different musical styles and genres that we can see Prince emulating here. Are you with me?
Kick it.
You ready for it?
Let's do it.
All right, song 1, side 1, I Want to Be Your Lover. Now, here's the thing about this song. It's his first major hit single in the U.S.
Yep.
It hit number 11 on the Billboard chart, so his first bona fide hit. And it only hit number 13 on the R&B charts. And that's weird because usually a song that goes that high, number 11 on the pop charts, from
It's
a
even
black
higher.
artist goes even higher on the R&B
yeah,
chart.
no, absolutely.
And
That
yet,
is weird.
this one didn't go as far on the R&B charts. Just, dude, we have talked about so many songs like Otis Redding. We talked about Gladys Knight, the Supremes. Almost always, man, if they got a top 10 hit on the pop chart, it's going to number 1 or number 2 on the R&B chart.
Yeah.
And this one didn't. But it's also the first sign that, you know what? My name is Prince. And I can sound like this because there are a few things. His falsetto. He sings this almost entire album
Yes.
in his falsetto.
Thank you for pointing that out.
You're not going to
The
hear
entire album.
Dearly Beloved. You're not going to hear that on
Nope.
here.
Yeah.
Okay? And so he sings with that falsetto. He has that funky guitar lick at the beginning. Now, what style do you think of when you first hear this song popping in? Because when I mentioned this song title, you were dancing. So
Yeah.
what were you thinking? Like, okay, this is who Prince is feeling when he's playing this.
Oh, this was straight up 70s R&B between 1975 and 1977. That's
and I heard something else. I heard Nile Rodgers.
the Chic. Yo,
Good times.
if you don't hear Nile Rodgers throughout this album, you know
Yeah,
what?
this is only the first song.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it right now. This album, and if he were here, he could try and contest it, but it's evident. Nile Rodgers, Smokey Robinson,
Yep.
Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Bam.
I'm even going to go a couple of more. Commodores.
Yeah.
Cool in the
Oh yeah,
Gang.
yeah. And I'm just stopping at those 4. But you could definitely tell he was a product of his society.
I completely agree. But another thing about this song is Prince had already had his keyboard sound.
Yeah.
That was kind of that Minneapolis sound. And he showed it on the first album with the song like Soft and Wet.
Yeah.
It's even more pronounced on this album and on this song.
True.
Like when you hear this, you hear Dirty Mind, Controversy, the albums that followed this.
Yeah.
You're hearing Prince's keyboard sound, that early 80s synthesizer keyboard going on.
Yeah.
You know, with always a catchy melody. Sometimes sounds a little cheesy, but it's undeniably Prince.
And it's interesting you say that because this album, something I'm pointing out right now while we're at it, his style, not just his signature, but the format, these songs. Here I am, I'm going to put the theme out front, a little melody for you to catch on to.
Yep.
Then I'm going to start into a verse, sometimes a bridge, chorus, verse, bridge, or not even a bridge, but some call it a pre-chorus.
Sure.
But boom, formula. I'm trying to say formulaic. That's his formula, and I ain't mad at him because that just shows he's studied music worth listening to early on in life.
Right. And another notable thing about this song is that it's Prince's first music video.
Oh yeah, and the
Okay.
little blue shirt wide open, or was
Well,
it purple? The hair and the little
I think it was,
black.
Here's the thing. He had 2 different videos. One is an officially released video that you can see on YouTube, and it has him playing every instrument.
Yes,
He's on
I
keyboards,
remember
he's
that
on
one.
drums,
Yes.
he's on guitar, he's singing,
Yes.
and he has jeans on and a leopard print shirt.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But there's another one where he's playing with members of the band that eventually half of them would become members of the Revolution.
Yeah.
So Dr. Fink's in it. He didn't have Wendy and Lisa
No,
yet.
because at that time he had Andre on guitar, but Brown
Right.
Mark was his bassist from the get go.
Was that right? Are you sure about that?
Brown, because he grew up with Brown.
You sure who's Des Dickerson? Was that his guitar player?
I think.
I don't
Des
think
was-
Brown Mark was there yet.
Okay.
I mean, we'll look.
Hey.
Okay, somebody out there is going to correct us. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter because they're not featured in the official video. It's only Prince.
Yeah.
But there is one with him playing in another setting with his band members.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I will say, and I have to say it because I say it every time we do an album, if it's true. This was a solid opener for his style of what he's doing. This was a good. Hey, I don't think he necessarily punched me in the face or slapped my teeth out my mouth, but he came correct. He was respectable. He was solid with this song.
Right. And look, I still love this song. This is on my
yeah.
Prince playlist.
Yeah.
100%. And one more thing I want to say about that video is Paul McCartney did the same thing. He had a single called Coming Up, which eventually the live version became a #1 hit. He did the exact same thing where he shows a video of him playing all the instruments. And so for him and Prince to do it at the same time, I don't know who did it first. I'd have to look at the release dates of the singles and the
But
videos.
you know what, though? If you're 12 years old and you find out that a Beatle did the same thing you did,
Right.
yeah, for
You're
real.
all right.
For real.
Now, lyrically, this song is about a guy who wants to steal a woman away from her man. He's going to love her all night long. And that's being nice because even early on, Prince was dirty, man.
Yeah. And honestly, I think like I said, he's a kid. He's having to find his identity. He also knows he's young, but he's smart enough to know that one, he's making music, he's writing songs. He needs not necessarily his shtick, but what's going to be his thing. Two, he's again being smart. He's writing songs. Well, was it? I want to say it was "Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad" and "I Feel for You." You know, he shopped those out. He presented those to Patrice Rushen back then. She was Forget Me Nots. You've heard her because she was a big artist in the 70s. You wouldn't know who she is now. I would if she walked through the door, but no one else would.
Yeah, because I know a little bit, but I have no idea who you're talking about.
Exactly. But the point is, at the time, she was the hottest thing going. So when you just did an album and you're trying to get your foot in the door and lay your stake, what do? Well, songwriters, that's how you solidify yourself. So he presented those songs. And that's something that we will see throughout his career. Because even when he is himself, and you're like, he's Prince. He does. When you write a song and say, I am Prince, when you write a song and you state your name, anyway, you are somebody. But even at that point, the pinnacle, he is still writing songs and present them to other people.
Yeah, well, let's hold off on that thought.
Tangent. I'm reeling it in.
It's okay.
Press.
It's okay. If I wanted to cut you off, I would have. You know that. All right. So look. Great debut single from this album.
Yes.
Great way to start off the album, to kick the album off. But then you get to song 2. Why You Wanna Treat Me So Bad. And I love this song. This song was the second single. But you know what? It did not make the top 40. But it was a number 13 hit on the R&B charts. Why do you think that is? Because this song was more successful on the R&B charts than the predecessor.
True. Although, just from the title, this one relates. Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad. Even though he's in a falsetto, you say, baby, why you want to treat me so bad?
And for me, what stands out, and we haven't had this in a while, where 2 songs punch me in the face. Left hook, right hook.
Yeah, because track 1, solid. Then, boom, just cranked it up a notch with track 2.
That's exactly how I felt. And the album that this made me think of was Learning to Crawl by the Pretenders.
Yep.
I'm
Straight
gonna hit you with Middle of the Road. I'm gonna knock you out with Back on the Chain Gang.
Yes.
And that's exactly how this made me feel. I'm not saying that we haven't talked about albums with great tracks 1 and 2. It's just that 1-2 knockout punch right away.
And exactly, you hit it on the head. That's exactly what this reminded me of, was that Pretenders album.
And throughout this song, this is why it shocked me that it was a bigger R&B hit than a pop hit. Because it has that nice blend of guitar and keyboard and that Prince keyboard sound.
Yeah.
But that guitar is more pronounced. It's not that funky Nile Rodgers hook. It's more pronounced in its rock and rollishness.
True, but and you hit that on the head as far as more pronounced in its rock and rollishness, but where did that sound come from? R&B charts back in the day. So I mean, it's it took a left turn, but he's just taking it back where it came from.
But look, we're going to fast forward the song all the way till the last 45 minutes of the song.
Yes, my favorite part.
Of course it is, because it is the first bona fide great guitar solo of Prince's career.
Yeah. So, because he is gone, rest in peace, he is referred to as a guitar virtuoso. Fact, no one will deny the fact that the man knows how to play. And this is the first time he says, "Hey everyone, guess what? I know what to do with this thing."
That's right. And when he plays that guitar solo at the end, first thing I'm thinking is Brian May at the end of Killer Queen. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to play this solo and let it fade out the song.
Yeah, and he also has overdubs the way Brian May would utilize overdubs, which is also, see, I'm getting all excited because one, he did this album himself.
That's right.
And so
as we
he
talked about at the beginning of the show.
laid down the main track, and he had to go back over, same way Brian May would, and harmonize with himself to lay down the next track. And boom, I gotta give another shout out to Les Paul, because had he not created this ability, we wouldn't have this album.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. And think about this. This is 1 year after Van Halen's debut album. So
Yeah.
Eddie Van Halen said, look, everybody plays guitar this way. Everybody expects the guitar to sound this way. And now I'm coming out and putting everybody out on blast. And I'm not saying Prince did an Eddie Van Halen-esque guitar solo.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that he came along and said, okay, I can play the guitar too. I can lay a riff down too. I can lay a solo down. And even though Eddie Van Halen, another rest in peace legend,
Unfortunately.
Prince said, I'm not going to be afraid to let loose on the guitar.
Yeah, probably because he heard Eddie's the first album. He's like, oh wow, he likes Flange too. He probably also loves Ernie Isley. That means I can do it too. Yeah, that's right. I went there. Booyah!
I don't have any idea why you just went booyah, but it's okay. But listen, anybody who's ever seen Prince play While My Guitar Gently Weeps with his guitar solo at the
Yeah.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
Pull it up on YouTube if you haven't. It'll change your
they
life.
know Prince can play guitar. Anyone who's ever heard him play Purple Rain in concert, they know he can play guitar. All we're saying is this is his first great guitar performance
Yes,
on record.
this is our first glimpse at his guitar skills.
Right, because in the video, it's not him playing the solo. He's playing it back and forth with the other guitar player.
Yeah.
But then you think, oh, wait a minute. Prince recorded this himself.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize, oh, he's letting the other guy play his licks in the video.
Yeah. And it's when you write music and you are recording and you're writing all the parts like that, and I've discussed this, we've discussed it before, it's like birthing a child because you conceive it, the idea's there, and it drives you crazy when it's in your head and you have to record it. And so for him to lay down those tracks, those harmonized parts, and get it out of his head into the world and fruition, it's an itch that you just have to scratch.
And listen, man, there are a lot of ballads on this album that he did not release as singles.
True.
And he said, you know what? I'm going to release this guitar-heavy song and see if it's a hit because I want it so much. For anyone out there, if you get a chance, go on YouTube and watch Prince perform this live, whether it's a more modern rendition, like from his latter years, or from that era, 1979, 80, 81, when it was in his regular rotation. Dude, he's still shredding at that young age, man. On stage, live, showing people, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, man, a great track. Another absolute classic on this early album from him.
Oh, definitely. This is that's definitely the home run.
Let's move on to track 3.
Yeah.
Now he says, look, I gave you the pop single. I gave you my guitar solo. Now, I'm just going to get really funky. Now, we talked about being inspired by Cheek earlier,
Oh, yeah.
right? This guitar line is right out of the Nile Rodgers playbook.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? It's just a funky dance track laying that 1970s funk.
And not saying his defense, but if you were playing guitar in the late 70s, well, yeah, let's say from 76 on to 79, Nile Rodgers was a force of nature. It's like if you played keys, you had to listen. You were influenced by Stevie Wonder. If you breathed air and made sound and you played keys, you're influenced by Stevie Wonder. If you were playing, chunking a guitar in the 70s during this time, laying down a groove, you were influenced by Nile Rodgers. It's a force of nature. There's no way around it.
And you know what's crazy is because I said he was inspired by Nile Rodgers. But look, Prince is also playing bass.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And that, boom. Thank you for bringing this up. Because as I listen to these bass lines, and again, we have the luxury of hindsight. All right? Because we weren't listening to this in 79 because
We were 5.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But as we've grown up and we're like, man, okay, yeah, I would jump if Larry Graham told me to jump.
Oh.
I'd bend over backwards if he told me to. Yeah.
I'd do flips if Marvin Isley said do flips.
You know, yeah, if Ernie Isley rolled up,
No, bass. Marvin.
yeah, Marvin, true. But it made sense in hindsight. Now that I'm older, you know, before he died, seeing Larry Graham, so I'm like, yeah, I'd have Larry Graham with me if I could. But realizing and listening and hearing these tracks, I'm like, oh yeah, no. Not only is he able to tear up the guitar, but yeah, he was definitely following in Larry Graham's footsteps of how to throw a groove.
That's right. And we're talking about the guitar licks. We're talking about the bass. Those keyboard accents, I like that he uses them as accents, not the primary instrument.
Yes.
Because this is just a dance track.
Yeah.
It's
straight up.
it's just sexy dancer on repeat. Those are the lyrics. Few nasty lyrics in there because it's Prince and it's got to be nasty.
Yeah.
But it's not about the lyrics. It's about getting on the dance floor and playing a funk song.
Yeah.
That's what
because,
this is.
Again,
It's what Rick James made his whole career out of.
Yeah. Because this was before we had sampling and the technology today where we can extend a song. Bands were doing it. So if they got you on the floor, yeah, it'll be a 15-minute song. But what's that always say? Either when you're playing, either you're going to get it shaking or swaying.
Now let me ask you this, because you have played jazz most of your life, right? I mean, I know you
Adult
play all genres, but you have played jazz most of your adult life.
Yeah.
Dude, was there something jazzy about that ending? Like him laying the keyboard solo at the end? To me, that felt like jazz. Like
Yeah.
jazz over a funk dance beat.
And again, that's the beauty of the Stevie Wonder influence. The complex, sophisticated sounds. You
It's
know?
a 19-year-old, man.
Yeah.
You know? But that's what I felt. I felt, okay, whatever Rick James was doing, that's what this song is doing.
Yeah.
Because he would really explore that with his next 2 albums, Dirty Mind and Controversy.
True.
When he would actually go on tour with Rick James.
Yep.
Okay. And I felt that jazz vibe where I'm like, oh, he wants to get a little jazzy
Oh,
here.
yeah.
He already showed his rock god guitar solo, already showed his pop chops. Now I'm going to do a little bit of jazz in the middle of or at the end of this funk song.
And, you know, in his defense, he grew up with that sound in his ear. 'Cause
Absolutely.
His father being a jazz pianist. I mean, Daddy named the boy after his jazz trio.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Prince Rogers trio.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now think about this. Because this song remained a staple in Prince concerts long after this album was released.
Yeah.
Okay. This is almost a predecessor to other like Prince dance tracks. You got The Look, Cream, Bat Dance, right? He had
Yeah.
huge hits with his dance tracks throughout his career. And he chose to keep this in his playlist for so long, or to revisit it throughout his career. So I have to give this props because I can imagine his thinking is this song is going to be played in the discos throughout the country, especially the black discos.
Yeah. Again, and hence the Nile Rodgers feel and influence, because that was what he wanted. And I'm glad you pointed out how that theme kept coming up, or he kept doing that throughout his career with those songs, because no matter how he evolved, he never forgot his roots of where he came from, the R&B days. Matter of fact, his struggle with the record company, the fact that he wanted to be like his idols, the ones he emulated that were cranking out albums every year, one or two a year, doing tunes that were long extended, where the band is cooking and jamming and people are on the floor going.
Right.
So he never left that though he ventured out,
he always returned to the dance tracks.
He was always
absolutely
back to his roots.
And look, man, we talked about the lyrics briefly. Here's the reality, man.
Yeah, these lyrics.
This isn't Chrissy Hynde.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's nothing poetic about that.
Okay.
I ain't buying a book of this poetry.
But think about this. I mean, there are some legitimately great Prince storytelling narratives.
Yeah.
Throughout his career.
This ain't it.
This ain't it, because that's not what this is designed for. And we know that about music. Sometimes great lyrics are needed. Sometimes you need Stairway to Heaven to be 8 minutes long to tell your story.
And sometimes you just need something simple.
Shake your thing, man.
Yep. Kiss yourself. Yeah. It's not about the words.
So let's move on to the last track on side 1, song number 4, When We're Dancing Close and Slow. So he just had his stripper song, Sexy Dancer, or his disco song, right? His disco funk song. And then he chooses to have another dance song, but this one's a slow song. This is you with your girl at the prom, dancing close and slow. Yeah. Right?
And it makes sense as far as the album order. Because you got to remember, this is also a man, or not a man yet, but a musician who's recorded an album, and this was still in the day where what you hear is what you got,
Sure.
So he was also thinking about live, because you were still performing live.
I don't know. I'd have to look up to see if he even played this song live. It doesn't feel like a live song, or a song that would captivate audiences.
Probably not like on tour, but in the club circuit doing parties and stuff, because you have to bring it down. So you have these 3 songs, everyone's going, Sexy Dancer. you know he extended that one live.
Oh, absolutely.
So after 15 minutes, all right.
Here's the thing about this song. Look, because this is really the first ballad on the album that we're touching on an album full of ballads.
Full of ballads.
I don't feel like this ever reaches its peak. In other words, I don't think that after it sets that initial mood, it ever goes above that mood.
No, I agree with you. It
just stays there.
Yeah, I agree with you.
There's not, like with Sexy Dancer, you can feel that pulsating rhythm, that dance rhythm the whole time.
Yeah.
Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad, you got that great guitar solo. The first song, I Want to Be Your Lover, had actually an extended 5-6 minute version on top of the single version that, says, hey, look, I am Prince and I am sexy, right? This song never breaks out of that initial mood, whether it's vocally, musically, or instrumentally, whatever.
You are spot
whatever you
on,
want to say.
Will. You are spot on. What this song is that slow beat background noise that at the club, at the band, at the dance, or wherever
Nobody's playing this at the club. They're going to listen to it and say, no, I'll bring everybody down.
When he's performing, he's got his set list going, and he's already done that, and it's like, all right, fellas, here's your chance. Go talk to her. Dance with her. Yeah. And this is the chance where the boy and the girl, they get the slow dance, and I think
I'm interrupting because I think you're going down a path that this song does not call for, because we're going to talk about 3 other songs that he can do that with more effectively.
True, he could. However,
This isn't the one.
this is track number 4. I'm just saying.
Here's the thing about this song. I'm gonna take this another direction. Look, he's continuing to display his piano skills here.
Yes.
Okay, this is his piano song. Not the only one, but this is him displaying those skills. Look, Prince released an entire album of piano ballads in 2002 called One Night Only.
Yep.
In 1983, he recorded piano demos that eventually came out on an album called Piano and a Microphone.
Yeah.
So Prince is not afraid of getting on a piano and taking it slow.
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, this track is as far as this album goes, this is the introduction of the acoustic guitar and acoustic piano.
Wow.
Where we hear that, and not the synthesizer, but an actual hit
Right.
the key acoustic.
And
piano.
on his first album, he had a song called "I'm Yours," which I thought did it more effectively,
Yeah.
melodically and everything else.
And this song, it's nice and sparse, so it's a good contrast to the other. Was it 3 tracks?
Yeah, this number 4.
Yeah, the other 3 tracks ahead of it, where they were not say overproduced, but there's so much going on. The instruments where it's thick,
Okay.
and here it's very thin, very sparse. It's touched as needed.
I just don't think it's a very good song.
No, it's not a very good
And
song.
so I don't think it's a good side closer.
Yeah.
And you see where I'm coming from?
Oh, no.
And
from that aspect, yeah.
and so we're going to talk about that on side 2.
Because of the mini ballads on this album.
Yes.
He could have. Yes. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly that way. My presentation about him playing live, any ballad would have worked, but he needed, for song 4, he needed to bring something down to let him slow dance.
You picked the wrong song. But you know what? Let's move on to side 2.
All right.
All right, Ken. Side 2 opens up with another ballad. And I'm going to ask you point blank. Should you open an album up or a side with a ballad?
Personally, I think no. But when, half your album is ballad songs, you really got a choice.
Well, I think they should have switched this with the next song, Bambi. I think Bambi, the rock and roll song, should have opened the album, kind of punching you in the face.
No, absolutely.
And so I understand why he did it, because you don't want to put every ballad back to back to back to back.
True. But I will say about this ballad, I do find it the most sincere ballad on this album.
That's fair. So you mean lyrically?
Yeah. And not that I dove too deep into the lyrics. I was like, yeah, okay. Because again, he was a good songwriter and he had his poetic moments, just not this album.
Right. And to be fair, man, this song is just a prettier song. The melody is just nicer and cleaner.
Yeah.
And it has that peak that you're looking for.
Yeah.
That dancing nice, close and slow.
And
doesn't
have. And because this is keyboard driven and it is the end of the 70s, Stevie Wonder influence is there. Again, it's one of those force of nature. You cannot get around it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take away, and as I'm getting excited here, I don't want to just throw that blanket statement out there and take away from the fact that he grew up with a jazz vocabulary on the keyboard in his ear, being that his father was a jazz pianist. So
Makes sense.
He had these sophisticated chords in his head, in his ear, and in his hands at this time.
When I was listening to this, you remember when Lionel Richie was collaborating with Kenny Rogers?
Yeah.
I almost felt like this could have been Prince's way of saying, hey, Kenny, sing my song too. Where it's got that AOR feel to it,
Yeah.
but a little bit of country flavor. Not as country as a Future song on the album, but a little bit where it's like, I'm going to let Kenny Rogers sing my song. Never did, but,
And so that does lead to an interesting thought, because like I was saying earlier, because of when he came up in the music industry, it would be neat to research and see if he did ever pitch this to Kenny or any of the other big crossover people of the day.
Probably
Because-
not, right? I mean, I've read, dude, right there on that bookshelf, I got Prince books galore because I love Prince.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever heard their names mentioned, except that Prince was supposed to show up for the We Are the World special and didn't, and instead
Yeah.
just sent a song, I think, for the Tears in Your Eyes for the album. And that's it. He said, I don't want to hang out with all those other stars. I
Same.
want to hang out with Huey Lewis and Kim Carnes. Anyway.
Don't want to meet Bob Dylan.
Right. You brought up Bob Dylan, a legend. I brought up Kim Carnes. Anyway, let's. But look, it's a nice song.
Yeah.
It really is. It's not
Yeah.
one of my favorite Prince ballads, but it's a nice, enjoyable song.
Yeah.
But it does sound of its day. Like I said, nice adult-oriented radio, contemporary, yacht rock, something like that.
Yeah, I give you that, man.
But it still has that Prince, keyboard feel to it.
Yeah,
Still
there's
got Prince's falsetto.
No denying.
Prince
this
still
song.
hasn't sung in a lower register yet on this album. We're never going to hear it,
Yeah.
right? It's okay. Let's move on to the second song on this side. And I'm talking about Bambi. Bambi. Look, man, this is how ignorant I am. When I first heard this song, one, I was shocked it was Prince because I didn't know Prince could rock this way. Okay?
Cool.
And what I'm talking about is a straight up rock song. Because he didn't release his rock album, Chaos and Disorder, till 1996. I first heard this probably around 1994 or 95. And then when he released the rock, I'm like, oh yeah, Prince has done that before. I'm going to pick this up too. Because I like when Prince rocks out.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, look, he's rocked out ever since song 2 of this album
Yeah.
in his career.
Yeah.
He did it on Purple Rain. He did it
Oh, let's go crazy, man.
The Cross on Sign of the Times.
Yeah.
Like, there are times when Prince is saying, I'm going to rock out and you cannot stop me. Now, this song, let's go specifically with this song. When you hear that riff, man, I hear a little bit of Rick Derringer's Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. Do you hear it?
Yeah,
He's got the Blue Oyster Cult's cowbell going on.
It is definitely 70s. I'm plugged in, all out.
FM radio.
Rock and roll.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that because I enjoy that type of music, man. I really do. I like that sound. And I think what Prince is saying is, look, the first album kind of has an entire feel to it. It's like his debut album. He's not really going off in a lot of musical directions. And this is him saying, look, I've given you Nile Rodgers. I've given you, this partially new Minneapolis sound. I've given you a little bit of Sly, a little bit of the Isleys, a little bit of Stevie, as you mentioned. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of the rock.
Yeah, because as we stated earlier, this is the album that sets him up, not just identifies his influences, but sets him up for his path, his future. And
Which is you never know what to expect.
and
Because, dude, all those ladies buying this album, looking at him on his Pegasus, are not expecting to hear Bambi.
oh yeah, no, true.
And their boyfriends are like, ooh, who's that?
Yeah.
Who's that sounding like Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo?
And the thing is, you don't wake up playing guitar like that. You get to play guitar like that by learning to play guitar like that, by learning to play songs like that. So that influence was there. He didn't just say, I want to sound like Rick, 70s balls out, good rock guitar. No, that's because he was cutting his teeth to that.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing, man, is like, why you want to treat me so bad? We're talking about Prince and comparing him to Eddie Van Halen, right? Brian
Yeah.
May, rock gods. Nobody's going to call Prince a rock god with this song. Now, we're talking about Blue Oyster Cult,
Yeah.
right? Rick Derringer. Hey, man, he had a huge hit with that song.
Rock and roll hoochie coo.
Around the 2-minute mark, he does this thing with the guitar where it almost sounds like Ted Nugent from one of his mid-70s albums, like from Cat Scratch Fever or something. And when I say that, I don't say that as an insult, but there's just a different way that rock guitars played before Eddie Van Halen and how they played after.
Yeah.
Well, this is Prince playing it before the first Van Halen album was released.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
And it's funny that you throw out Ted Nugent because I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Prince saw Ted Nugent because there's both of them up there in the Great White North.
Yeah.
Up there in the Midwest. And that's what people did back then. They went to shows. They saw people perform and play live. And like his idols and his influences, who some we've touched on, aka the Isley Brothers. They listen to music outside of their genre, but it was good music.
Hey, man, you and I watched Ernie Isley guitar solo live when that dude was like 50 or 60 years old.
Yeah, and it was
And he
ruthless.
tore it up. He tore it up.
Just ruthless.
And I said that, oh, yeah, Blue Oyster Cult, Ted Nugent. Man, the very end of this song is Prince letting loose on the guitar. Now, there's a lot of cowbell. Strong 70s staple, the cowbell. But, man, he was really letting it loose the very end of this song.
Yeah.
But it's not as memorable as the Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad solo that we talked about earlier.
True.
And look, man, this is how dumb I am, man. I did not know what this song was about because I didn't pay attention to the lyrics when I first heard it 25 years ago. I was like, man,
Don't feel bad, man.
he got inspiration from a Disney character. Man, he's talking about being in love with a lesbian, man. I didn't know. Now, 40 years later, you write a song about being in love with a lesbian. Okay.
Yeah, no big deal.
And that's great for our society. But 40 years ago, that's really provocative.
Yeah. And like I said, this album is where he lays the groundwork of trying to find and identify himself.
Right. And a 19-year-old wrote this song.
Oh,
He's giggling to himself in the studio
yeah.
singing this.
And just think about this. If you go back and look at different artists and, okay, so this is what they wrote when they were 19. This is what they wrote when they were grown. Because case in point, Robert Plant. Those first two albums, he's 19. Yeah, read those. That's a 19-year-old.
Hey, but he was still getting influence from Tolkien and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
But you're right. Then when you listen to All of My Love,
as he gets older, whatnot, you develop as a person. So 19, you Prince was definitely 19.
Yeah, for those out there who want to, go read the lyrics to Bambi. a sophomore effort from Prince's sophomore effort.
Yes.
All right, let's move on. Song number 7, third track on the side 2, Still Waiting.
All right, so I'm going to take us back to a conversation we just had probably a minute and a half ago, or something we touched on about the Kenny Rogers trying to farm songs, shop songs. Not that this is shopping to Kenny Rogers. This song, to me, has that country feel to it. It touches, at least as I heard it and as I hear it, it touches a country vibe.
I hear that too. That AOR feel, that AOR Kenny Rogers, not Willie and Waylon country.
Yeah, no. The beginning of crossover country.
Correct. Now, look, for me personally, I thought, man, why hasn't Billy Joel played this song, or Rod Stewart, or the song that it really reminded me of, at least in atmosphere, Elvin Bishop's Fooled Around and Fell in Love.
Oh.
That's what I think of when I hear this song.
So you know what I think of when I hear this song?
Talk to me.
Crystal Gale.
Don't it make my brown eyes blue?
See, I didn't even have to tell you. I didn't even have to tell you. Booyah, there it is.
That's hilarious, man. And look, the synthesizer on this, when we talked about that adult-oriented vibe, the synthesizer brings it back to Prince land, right? To Paisley Park.
Yeah.
Okay, saying, look, okay, I'm still Prince. I still got to put my signatures on this. But it does, and I'm really surprised, man. This is not the first time we've said that about a song on this album. I'm surprised I haven't heard a cover version of this song.
And I have to bring this up now, because you're right. I haven't heard a cover of this song, but though, like I said, I hear Crystal Gale, I want to know if Smokey Robinson has heard this song and what he thinks of it, because that's the influence I also hear in this song.
Okay, I can see it. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I have no argument with that. But in terms of ballads, one of the better ballads on the album.
Yes.
In my view, like I play this on my Prince playlist.
Yeah, I would say as far as the ballads on this album, this is the best of the ballads.
I don't think we've gotten there yet. Let's hold that. Let's hold that thought. Let's hold that thought. Nope. Okay, we'll talk about that on the very last song. Let's move on to song number 4 on side 2.
Here we go. The penultimate.
Dude, you know this song.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you and I were listening to this song in 1984, except it wasn't Prince's version. Man, in 1984, I did not even know Prince wrote this song.
And that was the beauty of it, man.
Because when that song broke out in 1984, Shaka Khan, Shaka Khan,
Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan. That's all you heard. She was letting you know this is a Shaka Khan song. But it wasn't. It was a Prince song. For those who don't know, who's Shaka Khan, Prince? Ken, I just called you Prince.
I know. And I am funky.
Yeah. No.
No. Yeah, that. Thanks. You brought it back.
Talk
you
to me.
grounded me
Come-
like my
come-
kids.
come on.
All right. Shaka Khan is a singer from the Midwest in the early 70s. She came out, she was in a group. She was lead singer for a band called Rufus. And not only was she a good singer and a solid, became a solo artist after that, she was noticed and admired by probably, arguably, one of the greatest songwriters, performers of the 70s by the name of Stevie Wonder, who heard her and said, "Oh, I like her." Musically. He didn't see her.
Okay.
Wrote a song for her and said, "Here, I have a gift for you." Boom. Tell me something good. Wow, wow.
Hey, stop right there.
Just
Because
pulled it out.
I love that song so much. When we do a Stevie Wonder album, we're going to do a couple of Stevie Wonder covers, including that one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're going to do Tell Me Something Good. So
Okay.
now we know who she is.
Now-
If you don't know who she is by now, then there's
yeah.
no point in
Can't
going
help
further.
you. Can't
yeah,
help you,
because
man.
we're going to have a whole show on Shaka Khan. Because I think she is one of the greatest singers of the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Just has a great voice. I wish she had more hits or more songs that have captivated me album-wise. And maybe she does, man. I really need to do a deep dive because I really do just love her voice. So let's do this, Ken. Let's compare the big hit, I Feel For You, with Prince's version on this album. It's going to take a few minutes, but I think it's important to do.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay? So in the Prince version, he's relying on that hook through the keyboard,
Yeah.
right? It's a catchy hook, right?
Yeah.
How's Shaka Khan relaying that hook?
Well, you got to, yeah. So harmonica. And plus, when Prince wrote it, this is album 79, disco. So
Yes.
he was chasing that feel. When Shaka Khan's came out in 84,
Yep.
the dance style, completely different because it was breakdancing.
Prince is playing real drums. Shaka Khan has a drum machine.
Yeah, because that's where music was at the time.
And I asked you the harmonica question. I thought
Yes.
that was a softball, man. You just spent 10 minutes talking about
Yeah,
Stevie Wonder
no,
and didn't
because-
even say who played the harmonica on Shaka's
Because I'm
version.
getting there. Because I'm getting there.
All right, talk
I
to
just
me.
had to point out how Prince's version, the style of music he was going for, where the world was different in 79 than in 84.
And Stevie was huge in the 70s. We're going to do a Stevie Wonder album.
because
Skies Blue, Water's
he
Wet.
was the 70s, pretty
Right.
much. And so,
And the 60s.
Yes.
And the early 80s. And Stevie's big, man.
yeah. And so big, 84 on this track, that melody that Prince is carrying with the keyboard, Stevie's carrying with the chromatic harmonica.
On Shaka Khan's song.
on Shaka Khan's
While
song.
Stevie Wonder is racking up his own top 10 hits.
Yeah. So think about this. You're 20-nothing years old. You have the biggest album of your career. You make a movie. You've just made so much money that you buy your own studio and chunk of real estate. And then a singer who you admire decides to cover your song. And not only that, but she manages to get the same person who admires her, who you admire, Stevie Wonder. So you have two of your idols who are sitting in a studio on your song.
That's right.
Think about that.
That you released 5 years earlier.
Yes. And, oh, by the way, she wins a Grammy with it.
Dang, man.
2 Grammys off of your song.
That's awesome. He's still collecting them. Well, he's not collecting
Was.
any checks anymore. Was. His estate is collecting checks.
Ruthless. And so, all that said, fast forward to the late 90s, where you see footage of him performing in Europe with Shaka Khan,
Yep.
and he's the sideman. Whenever you see him as the sideman, that's because that's someone who he worshipped the ground they walked on. Shaka Khan, Mavis Staples, Maceo Parker, Larry Graham.
Larry Graham,
You
the
know.
sideman.
Yeah, because as a kid coming up, who did he want to be like when he grew up? Who was laying it down that you wanted to emulate? Those people.
I don't know if we talked about it when we talked about the Sly album, about Larry Graham and Prince performing on stage at a House of Blues. They
Yeah.
were doing Sly Stone's Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again. I think, yeah, it was that one. And Prince is the sideman letting Larry Graham
Yeah,
run the show.
and he's just on the guitar, keeping the groove,
But it's
just
still
in
Prince.
the pocket. Just and he is.
And he's doing that for Shaka Khan later on.
Yeah, and he's being what every kid, every guitarist dreams of being when they grow up. I want to be the sideman for fill in the blank. And Shaka Khan, Larry Graham, Maceo Parker. So yeah, living the dream to the point where they all toured together back in the late
Man, I
90s.
can't believe I missed that show.
Yeah.
I was poor back then. I'm still poor, but I was even poorer back then. Look, man, it's a hard question because, look, Prince is a great songwriter. I still play Prince's version
Yeah.
when I'm running rotation. But are you taking this or are you taking the song from our childhood, Shaka Khan? Which one? You got to pick
Man.
one, push the other one over a cliff. Which one are you keeping?
Oh, I got to keep Shaka Khan.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And that's not even a knock on Prince's
No.
version.
Well,
It's just Shaka Khan, even with them drum machines. She's got Stevie on there. She's got her voice. And she's got that hip hop rap vibe.
Melly Mel. Yep.
Is that Melly Mel?
Melly Mel.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even know that. So she's got Melly Mel and Stevie on a Prince cover,
She's Shaka Khan, man.
winning Grammys with
Yeah.
Melly Mel. Man, that's awesome. I didn't even know that was Melly Mel. I didn't even read the Wikipedia entry for Shaka Khan's version. Man,
But and to go back to what I've said countless times on this show, if it's a great song, if it's a well-written song, it can be performed in different genres at different tempos.
And what do they say? As a
point.
guitar player, they say a great song's a song that you can strip down, play on an acoustic guitar, and it's still going to be
Yeah.
a great song.
Yep. And he's proven his version, let's say it's the stripped down one. Shaka Khan got hold of it, prettied it up, did what she wanted.
Before we move on to the last song on this album, I just want to say this. The great thing about Prince singing in falsetto is that it's really easy for women to cover his songs and make it their own.
Yeah.
We saw it with this. Prince, after he died, I think 2019, releases an album of all of his demos of songs that were made famous by other people.
Yes.
Manic Monday's on there, made famous by the Bangles. This one is on there. No, not I Feel Free. Glamorous Life,
Yeah.
before Sheila E. made it famous. So, Shaka Khan covering a song from Prince from this era makes perfect sense because you don't really have to drastically change the song because of the way Prince sings the song. Would you agree with that?
It's already in your head, in your ear. Yeah.
Right.
As a higher pitch. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy with that. But no, seriously, man, I think I agree with you. Shaka Khan has a better version, but I'm still glad Prince put out his version. It
Oh, yeah.
makes the album stronger for it.
Yeah, and that makes him stronger as an artist and musician because, again, he wrote it 5 years earlier, and that's his song.
Yeah.
When you can do that, when someone sees something in your child, your song enough to be like, hey, I like it, I think I'm going to record it, and they ride with it and take it high.
And it's an album that he thought he got all out what he could get out by
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah. It
Right?
was,
Like-
again, he's already redefined himself. 'Cause
With
when this-
1999, Purple Rain's
He
coming
is
out.
flying high on Purple Rain when this comes out. This is 84. This is the pinnacle of his career.
His popularity.
Yeah.
Right. So, look, I'm glad he recorded it. I'm glad it's out there. Not my favorite song on the album, but absolutely a must listen to song. So let's now move on to the last
Let us.
song of the album,
Let us.
Ken. This is another song. The last song, song 9, It's Gonna Be Lonely. This is another song that I am shocked nobody has covered this song.
Yeah.
I'm serious, man. It's catchy enough,
Oh, yeah.
but it's almost like there's an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the ballads on this album. There's so many ballads.
Yeah.
And
But, no,
Go-
come
no,
on, come
go.
on, come on.
okay, look, musically, it has that Commodore's ballad sound. Because the Commodores wrote great ballads.
Yep.
Easy. What is it? Sail.
Sail. Yep.
What else? Give me another Commodore's ballad.
Well, I'm thinking once, twice, three times a lady. But
Steel.
now, the ones we've listed and this song, whereas earlier, the other song I said with you was the best ballad, because this one, even though it's slower, I don't consider it a ballad like the others. So I separate this one from the other slow songs on the album because this one has more of a
Sounds like you're
groove
trying to
it.
dial it back, man.
No, because this song, and even as we're listening to it, and you're like, oh snap, yeah, because it has a groove, an underlying groove to it, where the other ballads they don't. The other ones, they're pretty, they sway, you're swaying. This one, it's like, okay, I feel a little current a little undertow with this one.
I see where you come from. Remember, you were saying you could understand why Prince would put the 4 song When We're Dancing Close and Slow.
Yeah.
For me, this is the kind of song that would have fit perfectly in that spot. It made side 1 even better.
Yes,
and even more
for
of
the
a highlight.
vinyl, yeah.
Yeah,
That
for the
definitely-
vinyl, for sure.
For the vinyl, yeah.
Okay. I think vocally, this is Prince's best song on the album. Vocally.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
where he's letting loose. This is where, when we were talking earlier, let's put a song for a live performance, where if he sings the way he does on this album track, and he does that live,
Yeah.
the crowd's going to respect that and show him love.
Which makes sense why he would close the album with this.
Exactly. And I never caught that before. I've been listening to this album, like I said, for a while now. Okay? And I'm going to be honest with you, man. I always just kind of skip the ballads, except for Still Waiting, which I really love.
Yeah.
But the rest of the ballads, I kind of skipped. And then prepping for the show, we always have these moments, Ken, where we're like, man, that song, I don't want to listen to it. I don't care for it.
Yeah.
And then we're prepping for the show, trying to think of something to say. And a little light bulb goes off where you think, oh my God, why have I been ignoring this song my whole
Yeah,
life?
because we catch something that we never caught before, and then the same song we've been listening to
The same song,
over
man.
and over.
But Prince is going all out vocally, and I'm just like, embrace. I'm like, sing to me, Prince, sing to me. Makes me feel a little funny inside. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But initially I thought, no, he shouldn't have closed the album out with this. He should have closed it out with something like I Feel For You or Bambi or, something
Yeah.
with a little edge to it. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. The edge isn't in the background music, right? Or with that little bit of groove underneath. No, the edge is in Prince's vocals.
vocal delivery.
Because in my mind, I'm thinking, no, I got to close the album out with this because my vocal cords are torn to shreds because I just released my entire heart out on this song.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm giving Prince respect for this song. Vocally, one of his best performances. A song I dismissed for years. Oh, just another ballad on Prince's half a ballad album. And then I think, oh, wait a minute. And then you have that epiphany. Oh, I can't believe I just missed out on this all this time.
And I'll let you know a little secret.
Uh-oh, what?
Well, nothing crazy, but I had the same epiphany earlier this week with the same song.
Yes.
Where it just, listening to it countless times. I told you, I've been listening to this album in the mornings when I get ready for work. Okay, yeah, song gets there. Yeah, okay. This week, I was, oh. And it's like, oh, snap. how I've heard this.
Yeah,
but I
because we
didn't
knew we were going to
listen.
do this album a year ago on the show.
So hearing it, yes. Listening, boom, total difference.
Completely different. Made me completely reinvent my thoughts on this song. It just did. It just, oh my God, Prince is really letting loose. Like, why wasn't this a hit? It just, one of those things where not just for another person, why didn't Prince really push this?
Yeah.
Or the record label or whoever at the
Yeah.
time. Anyway, I just think it's an amazing album closer. When I was coming into the show thinking, hey, he should have closed it with something else.
Yeah.
I really did.
I feel
Now, before we shut this whole thing down, because we've been going over an hour now, do you think that he could have done something where he has like his dance side and then his slow ballad side? Because artists have done that, where they put the hard songs or the dance songs on one side, then they put all the ballads on the other. I think, okay, this is when you're here with your lady, you play this side. If you're out having fun, you play this side. So he could have done I Want to Be Your Lover, Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad, Sexy Dancer. And then he could have put Bambi and I Feel For You, all on one side. And then he could have put the 4 ballads on the other side.
Yeah, he probably.
You see
could
where
have.
I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Like, I think something like that would have made the album flow better. Because I think the album does kind of take you up and down because he threw so many ballads on. Man, that's a lot of ballads. It's not like Gladys Knight where every song is a vocal performance.
Yeah.
So you can listen to 4 or 5 slow Gladys songs, but she does something vocally that's so different and unique every time, or the melody so strong every time, where you just keep singing to me, Gladys.
Yeah.
Prince doesn't have that yet.
Yeah, no. Not on this album.
He's not changing his voice up. It's that falsetto the whole way through.
Not all 9 tracks, yeah.
And I'm okay with that because I like Prince falsetto. I'm just saying I kind of wish the album order was different. Do you see where I'm coming from?
And that also goes back to the beauty of the fact this is still a kid who's making his second album.
And before we wrap this up, this is not a critically acclaimed album. When people say, what are your favorite or what are the best Prince albums, people don't usually put this one there. For me, it's one of my favorites, but I can understand why people don't view it that way. It's not Purple Rain. It's not the double disc 1999 or Sign of the Times.
Yes, you are correct. Though, if you go back and listen to this album and you're fans of those, you can hear where it begins.
Where he's getting those ideas from. Forming that Minneapolis sound.
And his identity.
Absolutely, because Prince never settled into one thing his entire career. Ever. Oh, you don't think I'm a rock god? Let me shred this guitar. Yeah. Oh, you don't think I can get nice and sweet? Let me put out an entire album of piano ballads.
Yeah, you're right. He didn't settle.
Oh, you want pop hits? I can release top 10 hits for 2 decades, 3 decades.
He became Prince, and this is where it begins.
Right.
This album.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. Look, if you're a fan of Prince, please let us know in the comments what's your favorite tracks, what's your favorite Prince songs. We really want to hear from you. If you enjoyed today's show, please hit the like button. If you want to hear more shows from us, please hit subscribe. Until next time, bye-bye.
Peace.